everyone. I'm Chris Marcus with Truvio. I am the Director of Strategic Partnerships and I work with Stoneridge. I want to thank them first off for having us at Connect, and thank you everyone for joining us today. So I'm excited to spend this time with you because the conversation we're about to have is one that every Dynamics customer eventually reaches, whether they realize it or not. That conversation is about the gaps that remain after you've deployed your ERP. But first, I want to start with who is Truvio and who is Truvio, or what is Truvio, and who we used to be. We used to be known as SK Soft Banking Automation, Sign Up Software, AP Automation. You may be familiar with Xflow. We also are brought in extensions, operational automation, and dynamic web e-commerce solutions. Now, instead of the 4 separate niche vendors, Truvio represents a single scaled ISV platform within the Microsoft ecosystem. And we're not new to this. We've been doing this for over 20 years. We're a mature global Microsoft aligned platform supporting more than 5,000 customers in over 80 countries. So let's get into it. What I want to talk about today is something we see every single day in the Dynamics ecosystem. And that's the gap between what Dynamics promises and the operational value you as a customer actually receive or realize out of the box. Don't get me wrong, D365 is an incredible platform, but Microsoft intentionally leaves room for partners and ISVs to extend it. And that gap is not a flaw. No one can be 100% everything to everybody. And that's where Truvio and why we exist. We exist to close that gap. Dynamics gives you a strong foundation with finance, operations, and supply chain that's all connected, but organizations still face most of the same challenges. Manual work, limited visibility, fragmented processes, and data inconsistencies. And when companies try to fix this with workarounds or disconnected add-ons, it really just increases the complexity of the organization and the business processes you're trying to eliminate, the manual stuff. So while Gartner reports that 70% of ERP rollouts fail to meet their expected goals, it's a half-truth, because it's not because the ERP is wrong. You've probably spent a lot of time, invested a lot of effort getting this to work for you. But most ERPs don't fully meet the business needs. And it's the business needs, and they need more than an ERP alone can deliver. That's the value gap we're going to talk about today. The ERP value gap is the space between what your ERP provides and what your business actually needs to survive and function. ERPs are built for broad strokes, but your business operates in nuances. Those nuances might be industry, geography, business model, or maybe you've got unique business process workflows. Closing that gap requires specialized tools and practitioner expertise that Stoneridge can deliver, but also reinforces your business processes that are being executed in Dynamics. Out of the box, Dynamics can handle core financials, supply chain, and operations really well. But once you get into some real-world scenarios, things break down. No matter how much you've planned for an ERP rollout, things can break down. Accounts payable teams are drowning in email attachments and PDFs. Maybe finance lacks visibility because of controls or workarounds that have been created around approvals, and eCommerce is disconnected from ERP processes. Or maybe you're seeing customizations pile up that can begin slowing upgrades that you want to take, and then create a vulnerability within your business. One example of what this might look like in real time. Let me know if this is something you've run into. An ERP goes live, accounts payable still lives in email. Invoices arrive as PDFs, Someone is gone, approval stalls. The person gets back, approval happens, still in inboxes. Something has changed. The manual work hasn't kept up. And then someone again, if you don't miss something or create an error, someone still has to manually key everything back into Dynamics. Really, no one sets out to run AP this way. It just happens because ERP handles the core transaction, but it doesn't handle the real workflow. So over time, visibility drops, controls weaken, and close becomes reconciliation instead of confirmation. So take into consideration that you might have a very high volume of invoices, and you start to get a picture of how big that gap really is. We can also see this in project-driven environments. Costs are tracked partly in F&O, partly in spreadsheets, partly in someone's head. By the time finances sees a margin issue, the project is already over budget. The ERP technically supports project accounting, but it doesn't enforce control at execution. That small gap turns into real financial surprises. That's the ERP value gap, not because Dynamics is wrong. Again, you've invested a lot of time and effort and consideration into choosing the right solution. But the gap is real because business challenges live outside core ERP logic. Gaps like those examples are where Truvio exists to close the ERP value. We unify finance, operations, and commerce in a single automated portfolio that's designed specifically for D365. With Truvio, you get a single ISV partner for finance, commerce, and operations, automated repeatable steps, guided exception handling, compliance that's built into these workflows, with Stoneridge bringing the practitioner expertise alongside Truvio, and you get a deep Microsoft alignment. So before Truvio, teams work around Dynamics. After Truvio, Dynamics works the way business actually is intended to operate. And that's how we at Truvio deliver the ERP promise. So if Truvio exists to close the Dynamics value gap, the natural question is, where does that gap actually show up inside the business? Let's talk a little bit about it by foundation. In our experience, it shows up in four predictable places. It shows up in how many moves, how invoices and approvals flow, how customers buy and interact, and in how operations executes day to day. Truvio products address each area of your business with a solution that's purpose-built for D365, whether that be Business Central or F&O. But since we're here, let's talk about F&O first. No matter where you are in your journey, having a complete snapshot of your business is critical. Finance and operations customers require automation that can manage scale and complexity and potentially risk that's global across project-driven operations even. Truvio Financial Automation extends, but doesn't replace, it just extends Dynamics Finance and Operations. It preserves Microsoft's core ERP while closing the functional and process gaps that you might have using purpose-built automation. And for many organizations, that snapshot gets blurred when key processes live outside the ERP and in spreadsheets or point solutions and other manual workarounds. Truvio Financial Automation for F&O brings source to pay, order to cash, record to report, and project to profit without manual handoffs or disconnected tools. It is a single cohesive operational financial picture embedded within Dynamics to give you the benefit of a single ISV partner, creating a connected end-to-end cycle back to the system you already rely on. So why does financial automation matter to F&O customers? It's incredibly powerful, but out of the box, F&O doesn't fully cover the operational and financial realities of modern business. And the real pain becomes longer month-end closes, lack of visibility to cash flow, project margins that you can't trust, control is no longer control, it's reaction, and F&O upgrades can get risky because of the customizations. Not only can they get risky, they can become expensive. These challenges limit the value you may have expected when you chose F&O in the first place. The value of our financial automation suite is organized around 3 core finance cycles: source to pay, record to report, and order to cash. The key idea is we keep F&O as the system of record, always, and Truvio optimizes the gaps with embedded, targeted automation so that teams get outcomes fast without re-platforming, and while bringing the value of shorter month-end closes, visibility into your cash flow, project margins that can be trusted, and it provides more control of finances. Plus, there are fewer risks when it's time to upgrade because Truvio is embedded in your system. So, starting on the left with source to pay, our emphasis is in taking the friction out of AP. Invoice automation, vendor reconciliation, vendor statement reconciliation, payments, settlements, subcontractor handling, and the banking integrations that tie it together. In the middle, record to report is where we improve improve close and accuracy with accruals, cash and bank automation, bank plus project revenue recognition. And on the right, order to cash is focused on speed to cash, AR e-invoicing, remittance automation, payment processing, settlements, and project control, all supported by Truvio banking integrations. The callouts on the right show we're leveraging proven solutions that have existed for more than 20 years. And across every lane, we anchor in the same foundational promise: compliance, fraud protection, efficiency, plus AI and control in an evergreen environment. So Truvio really does keep improving functionality time over time. Truvio also closes the operational gap inside finance and operations. Out of the box, F&O has that basic coverage across inventory to deliver, plan to produce, and project to profit. But that's where the complexity really starts to creep in. Truvio layers in operational automation powered by extensions to handle advanced production planning, project cost controlling, inventory validations, and shipping integration. These controls without customizations with capabilities that are designed to manage exceptions the moment they occur. The result: better predictability, stronger margins, and fewer surprises across operations. We spent some time on finance and operations for the more complex or enterprise environments. Now let's shift the business to Business Central, which represents a different profile, but many of the same pressures. Truvio Financial Automation completes that Business Central cycle across 3 finance cycles that matter most: source to pay, order to cash, and record to report. Business Central handles the core accounting really well, but this is where customers typically struggle at first. AP automation, AP invoice handling, cash application, bank reconciliation, payments, and expenses. Truvio fills those gaps natively inside Business Central because it is also embedded in Business Central. It uses proven solutions like Xflow and SKSoft, so there's no replatforming and no duplication of business logic. The value here is scale without complexity, fraud prevention, control, governance. As transaction volumes grow, Truvio allows finance to move faster while maintaining control, visibility, and compliance. So Business Central remains the system of record, and for growing BC customers, this means finance scales with the business without added complexity, custom code, or additional technical debt. So far, we've talked about how Truvio closes the gap in finance and operations. It brings automation, control, and visibility back inside F&O and BC. But where Truvio Commerce plays a role is in your customer journey. Even when the back office is running well, many organizations still struggle to meet the needs of their customers. So unlike its cousins in AP and banking automation, Truvio Commerce shows up in products, pricing, content, customer experiences that often live outside the ERP and create disconnects between how the business runs and how customers want to buy from your business. So where Truvio Commerce comes in is about connecting that digital commerce directly to dynamics and extending the value by closing the gaps with sales, customer service, marketing, and product teams. Powered by Dynamic Web, Truvio Commerce is one of the only true digital experience platforms that brings e-commerce, PIM, and content management together through native integrations that are built for both F&O and BC, as well as CE. This means real-time pricing, availability, and customer-specific logic that's built for complex manufacturing and distribution industries with data that's coming from all over, relies on a single source of truth. So why does unifying commerce matter? First off, I said this is a true digital experience platform. And better customer experiences mean fewer bottlenecks and disconnected systems on a commerce platform that operates as an extension of your ERP, which means you're able to eliminate the silos, reduce time to market through a highly configurable yet modular approach that's built for growth. By providing the self-service portals, you can reduce the complexity of B2B buying journeys, and that reduces the bottlenecks while assisting sellers and customer service with account and order creation and order management. Content, product data, pricing, and e-commerce or commerce workflows often live in separate systems. Truvio takes a different approach by connecting e-commerce, content, and product data into one ERP-centric platform. Let's start with the module e-commerce. It delivers a modern, scalable B2B, B2C, and direct-to-consumer experience that's directly connected to Microsoft Dynamics. So instead of duplicating the business logic across systems, pricing, inventory, and customer data that flows directly from the ERP to power personalized omni-channel experiences. With support for complex pricing, self-service tools, portals, multi-storefronts, and headless commerce, Truvio helps organizations scale faster, reduce operational overhead, and lower the total cost of ownership, again, while keeping Dynamics at the center as your single source of truth. Another module, Truvio's PIM solution. It helps to solve one of the biggest challenges in manufacturing and in commerce, and that's how do you manage the product data at scale. Think about a company, maybe it's yours, that has a large number of SKUs, and you need a solution that centralizes that product data directly and connects it to Dynamics. You need to make it easy to enrich, you need to make it easy to govern, and you need it to be able to distribute that accurate product information across e-commerce, portals, catalogs, and other channels that you may be selling to or selling through. But the result is consistent data everywhere. With faster time to market and fewer errors, teams spend less time managing spreadsheets, fixing the ERP data, and more time matching the experience your customer wants by providing information where your customer needs to have it. So, Truvio Content Management, the last of the modules. Truvio Content Management gives organizations the ability to deliver rich, brand-driven digital experiences without disconnecting marketing from the ERP. With a full-featured content management solution that supports visual editing and developer customizations, your marketing teams or your product teams can manage multiple sites, multiple languages, and editors from a single platform. Because Truvio Commerce is connected to Dynamics, content can be personalized using the data in your ERP, so your customer experiences stay relevant, consistent, and scalable across every channel. And each of these modules that I shared with you are modular components built on a platform that's meant to scale with your business. And finally, not to be outdone or left behind, we've now released Truvio Sense, our AI intelligence layer across all Truvio products. Up to this point, we've talked about how Truvio automates and unifies finance, operations, and commerce inside of Dynamics. But Truvio Sense is the AI intelligence layer that sits across the entire Truvio portfolio. While Truvio automates work inside Dynamics, Truvio Sense learns from that work, continuously analyzing patterns, exceptions, and outcomes across finance, operations, and commerce. Truvio Sense also takes it a step further by learning it from activity across all those areas and surfacing what matters most. In finance, Truvio Sense highlights the risks and anomalies and bottlenecks before they become issues around cash approvals and close. In operations, it detects patterns that lead to cost overruns, schedule risk or margin erosions, and guides teams to act before these become an issue. And finally, in commerce, it connects customer behavior with ERP data to identify where those friction points might be in buying journeys and in product performance. Most systems automate tasks. Truvio Sense connects insight across systems, turning automation into insight and insight into action. So teams don't just work faster, they make better decisions across the business. So I appreciate your time. And as I wrap up, I want you to remember, if nothing else, from one thing today, it's this. D365 is the foundation of your organization. You've made a great investment, but Truvio is where and how you unlock its full value by automating and closing gaps in your business processes. If you have more questions about what I shared today, feel free to reach out directly to me through the contact information here, or drop something in the chat. We'll be monitoring that throughout the day. And I want to thank you so much for taking the time to learn about Truvio Solutions today.